It's time for the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. Blake Sloan, one of the top real estate agents not only on the Grand Strand, but in the world. He's been featured in Forbes magazine, The Wall Street Journal, NBC, and many other publications. And now, the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan.
Good morning, everyone. Got an awesome brand new show this week. Great CCMF weekend and all kind of craziness going on in the real estate world. We'll talk about markets up, markets down, getting questions everywhere. Is the market crashing? Is the market going up? It's going to stabilize. And so we'll talk about that today. Awesome stuff. We have a special guest in the house today we'll talk to in a minute. My best friend, one of my mentors. We'll talk about kind of what's going on with interest rates, the market, what people are looking for in terms of investors right now. And so we'll talk about that today. We'll also have the brand new market update from last month. Very interesting numbers. We saw significant decline in terms of numbers last month being down in terms of new sales. Prices still holding pretty good. We'll talk about that. One of the biggest things people are talking about right now is interest rates. Up, down, back up again. And so we'll talk about what to look at this year, what's going to happen in that terms of that. And at a couple of things on last week's show we didn't get to, where Myrtle Beach was named the fastest growing, one of the fastest growing cities in the country. Again, second year in a row. We'll talk about that. And just a lot of great things going on right now. Again, as usual, some awesome success stories. Our team's been absolutely crushing it. One of those we had this week, we helped them get $25,000 more dollars they thought they could actually get for their property to allow them to buy somewhere else and relocate. So very excited. We're coming into the seasonal market here, our summer market. And so there's a lot of people coming in town. We'll talk about what's really due with your largest asset this summer, this year. There's so much uncertainty. We'll help just guide you through like we always do and we've done for the past 10 years. So take a quick break and I'll be back in a second.
That Blake has trademark systems for both home sellers and home buyers. They are trademarked, so we can't give you all the details, but more than happy every week to tell you the most important part of that system.
Yes, and that's the whole DNA behind this show. Really why we've been doing the show for over 10 years now. And I have to say the same thing every week because I see the same horror stories over and over again. It really doesn't matter how affluent the person is, how many homes they bought and sold. They still tend to make this same mistake. And it's really just true in the whole industry of real estate is they make the mistake of thinking that all real estate agents are the same. And it could not be any further from the truth. Just like any doctor, any lawyer, right? If you're charged with a crime you did not commit, the last thing you want is some part-time attorney who's tried a few cases just because your friend recommended him, right? You want the absolute best, most aggressive, and someone who specializes in that type of law. And it's the same thing you're dealing with one of your largest assets, right? Your house. And so that's just something that's so important where people don't realize that the number one mismanaged variable in the home selling process really comes down to the agent they choose. And that's really what determines their success or failure, because when you're selling a property, there's 118 different variables from A to Z. Each one's handled correctly. Guess what it does? Puts money in your pocket, your property gets sold. Anything's handled incorrectly, aka they drop the ball at any point. It could be anything from the quality of the photos, the order of the photos. Does your agent actually answer the telephone when a buyer calls off that for sale sign? Do they respond to web leads? All these things that matter have to be managed in that process. And it's simply just too much variables for one single person to do. And so what we did is say, look, there's got to be a better way to do this. And I looked at what people did outside of real estate and had true businesses with systems and processes, said, hey, how can we bring that into real estate and make that a system that's proven repeatable every single time? And so we did that, and we created this thing called the guaranteed sold system. Only proven system sells twice as fast and for up to 20% more money than traditional methods, and it works very well. But it always comes down to how are those variables handled, and we really break that down with a team of people and also with software and technology to help make sure all those processes are handled to give you, the client, a huge competitive advantage. Where most agents, you have one single agent who's trying to juggle all the balls of real estate, where it's almost like having the same person McDonald's work the front register, the drive-thru, and the french fries at the same time, which is why there's so much frustration. So with our team, we're able to get you that access and that process and those systems to help get you to that process and get the most amount of money for your home. On the flip side, we also have a system for buyers out there called the Unfair Advantage Home Buying System. Get your property access to foreclosure, distress sales, desperate sellers, the absolute best negotiation and purchase price, but really getting you to that closing table seamlessly and easily and getting you the absolute best deal. And so that's the most important part that we really just kind of break down for this show, is that you need somebody who can get you that competitive advantage all the way through the process. And so we'll talk about today's show and get a little more detail on that here in just a quick second.
Here with my trusted friend in the real estate market, Blake Sloan of Sloan Realty Group. So what do home sellers, what do they need to know about the market right now? Well, the market here on the Grand Strand, absolutely on fire. We're seeing record numbers in terms of prices that sellers are getting. It's almost unbelievable. We're seeing hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars coming in from the Northeast that are just coming bidding up properties and getting sellers more money than they ever thought possible. Got it. Now, how will that get them more money? That's going to help get home sellers more money because there's more buyers here than we've ever seen before. But we're not sure how long that's going to last. We are seeing that start to level off a little bit. Some of that interest has started to slow down. So sellers definitely take advantage of the super hot market right now before there's any type of shift. All right, as always, thanks for the insight. Call Blake Sloan today at 808-SOLD. That's 808-SOLD. Or online at blakesloan.com. That's blakesloan.com.
Hi, I'm Barbara Gorman. I'm excited to connect with Blake Sloan, the only real estate agent in Myrtle Beach that I recommend. You offer several options for home sellers, which really takes away the stress.
That's right. For sellers in a time crunch, we can agree to sell it by a certain date, take after help, or even rent.
That's great. And if the seller has a bit more time,
Use our proven marketing plan to sell it for the highest price.
work with my friend Blake Sloan and get the home sold on your terms.
Welcome back to Blake Sloan Real Estate Show. Got special guests in the house. My best friend, really, and one of my mentors in life, and really big in business, man. Huge in business. Big background in insurance and institutional insurance. Big time real estate investor, over 100 plus properties in his portfolio, and also big investor in restaurants and like that. So someone I looked up to in business and life, and just want to have him on the show to talk about, hey, what do you think's happening with the economy and everything going on? So what's up, Mike?
Thanks, Blake. How are you, buddy?
Great. Yeah, Mike Tuttle here, and he's just someone I look up to and just talk about. We were talking about earlier just interest rates and economy and things like that. What are you seeing right now? What do you think's kind of coming up really for this uncertainty coming in the rest of 2022?
Well, one thing I want to say, I'm very proud and grateful that you invited me on the show. I think very highly of you. But as far as interest rates, working in the financial sector for the past 30 years, consistently what I keep hearing is that they're going to think interest rates are rising, obviously, right? Pretty rapidly. But they see them leveling off sometime at the end of this year. Whether that's going to happen, no one has a crystal ball, right? And so every time I ask the same question, I get the same answer, but with that caveat that, there's no guarantees, especially when interest rates come in, because you've got outside sources like you got the Fed, you've got supply chain issues, you've got what's going on in Russia. So you got all these different variables that are weighing in on it. And so it's much more difficult for the Fed to control those interest rates. So, it's kind of anybody's guess. I don't think they're going to get completely out of control. But that being said, they're still going up.
And you've seen even some big deals, banks and things like that. You're seeing some of them a little less loose in terms of their investment strategy. I think they were doing last year. We were talking a little bit about that last night. You've seen kind of them tighten up a little bit in terms of what they're doing, their strategy wise.
Yeah. Again, that kind of tells you there's no crystal ball. I work with, several hundred financial institutions around the country. And there was a time when they didn't think interest rates going to move at all.
Right.
And so they were flush with capital, they were flush with cash, we're getting all this, and they were investing in everything they could possibly invest in to get some extra yield. But then when rates started rising rapidly, they said, oh, let's wait a minute, because we don't want to get caught investing in something and have rates rise on us 200 or 300 basis points and wish we would have waited 6 months.
Yes.
But that's banks. That's not real estate, but that's banks.
Yeah. And that's one thing always just interesting to watch. And I like to try to find patterns outside of, the real estate sector or somebody who's connected, to the real estate sector, obviously like the financial markets. And that's something we've seen a lot too. And switching gears a little bit, big time real estate investor, 100 plus properties, what's some of the things that's really most important to you, when you're looking for an expert realtor, somebody to kind of help you navigate and find those properties, sell those properties and things like that?
It's been a while since I selected a realtor. So I got to go back and think about it, because I've always worked with a professional, just like you said. Choose an attorney, choose a doctor, choose a dentist. I try to make a personal connection with the folks. So they have to be high quality, high caliber people, because I try to hold myself to that same standard. and somebody that's knowledgeable in the business, somebody that's very proactive with you and not just want to sell your property or not just want to sell your property for what they can get out of it. Somebody wants to really have your best interest at heart and understands this is not a single transaction. They want to earn your business going forward and forward and forward. So just imagine the person that sold me 100 plus properties, what good deal they got out of it. They didn't have to squeeze all the blood out of it for themselves on their first deal. They gave me such good professional advice. They were so proactive in helping me that I came back time and time and time and time again.
And that's one of those things that, and just side caveat, he lives in North Carolina. So obviously that's just a big side part there. So great stuff up there. And that's one thing that we talked about, that lifetime value is so important to have someone you can trust that can guide you. And then that pressure's off you, right? Once you have someone that you really can kind of trust and find, and all of a sudden they bring more deals, and obviously you can grow that portfolio. And that's the same thing here that our team does. And we're really focused on, we're very, very, very big on this, is we want to be their real estate resource for life. And so we talk about this from day one once we meet them, is that we're not here to sell a house, aka sell them a house or sell their house. We're to serve them for life for anything real estate. And so one thing that we're really big on is we service them the entire time they have the house. And so we know that the average consumer is not going to move but every 7 years, but they may need a plumber every year or an electrician, or they may need something that around the house. And so what we're constantly doing is really churning and finding the best vendors, getting them the best discounts. And that's one thing that we're always doing, and really kind of push our team to say, look, touch base with our clients every quarter and really check in and see what's going on and see how we can serve. And that's something that's really done a whole lot for us in our business. But it's like you mentioned, if y'all want somebody in the financial sector, I have somebody doing my investments, whatever it is, I want the absolute best. And I think that, it's so crazy sometimes that people just look at realtors all the same, and they never actually break down and say, look, what's this person doing for me? How good are they in what they do? What's their experience? And so we see so many horror stories with that, where most agents don't even really understand or know the market. And that's one thing that we'll get into really, really quick, is that market's been all over the place. And so we've been tracking what's happening in terms of the overall, real estate market in general. We've been looking at what's happening under contract and things like that. And one of the biggest things that we've been looking at since COVID happened is how many properties go under contract every 7 days. And it was down significantly, where a few weeks ago, we were averaging about 690 properties under contract every 7 days in our area. And then it dropped down to 522 last week. And so last week we have 522 properties under contract, 200 million in real estate. This week, back up, which I was surprised to see actually when I ran the numbers. I watch it every day. 580 properties under contract last 7 days here on the Grand Strand, which is awesome. $208 million in real estate under contract, which is really, really good. And that's what I like to use to look at I call it the windshield numbers, right? I'm looking to see what's happening going forward, because new properties that go pending, those are going to close in really 30 to 60 days out. And so that's what the overall rear view numbers that we'll talk about in a second can help really forecast and say, here's how I make better decisions. Here's how I can push a little higher for our clients. And that's really, sometimes we use that data to get more, I guess you say, squeeze out of the limits to help them get more money for their property. And so right now, one thing that's a big, big topic we've been watching, not just here, but across the country, is inventory. Inventory is really rising through the roof. We're hitting kind of new records this week. Where last week on our show, we had 531 active homes on the market in all of Horry County. Today, it's up to 598. So we're almost hitting that 600 mark, which is great. Here's a key part. We're seeing a lot of big time money coming from up north. 13 properties over $1 million under contract, 89 properties over 500,000 under contract. And so that's something that we're seeing week versus week. But overall, I do think we're seeing a softening of the market. I was talking to people in Charlotte. You guys kind of seeing the same thing up there. A couple people have seen a little bit. But the good news is prices are still up. And so the big news from last week, I'll just get in really quick for anybody that may have missed last week's show, was so overall closed sales down. They're down 13.9%. Overall, the data still continues to get put in from some closings, things like that. It was down 15% just 2 days ago. So 601 properties closed last month, where if you look at last year, overall in May, there's about 700 properties under contract. And so you're seeing significantly less. But here's the cool part, though. We're still seeing prices still climbing at record numbers. Just last month, prices up 31.6% at $380,000 here on the Grand Strand for median price, which is awesome. A new record here. Also, average price is up 20.7% from the same time last year. But the one thing to watch, we did see a month versus month decline. And so, for example, last month, average home price here on the Grand Strand, $473,984. But if you go back to April, it was $487,024. So that's one thing that we're going to keep watching, where I do think that if you're thinking of selling this year, if you have an investment property, think about cashing out, it may be a time to kind of take some of those chips off the table. We're seeing a lot of sellers who are realizing and saying, hey, I think we may have scraped the top a little bit. We are starting to see a decline as interest rates have risen significantly so far this year. And so we've had a lot of people call in the office and say, hey, look, I'm looking to get this thing sold, especially for investment properties or people looking to relocate. One opportunity, though, is you're seeing some more inventory. If you're thinking about moving up or moving laterally or moving down, aka downsizing, it's a great opportunity right now because there's actually more inventory on the market. Like I mentioned, we're almost up to 600. If you remember, just a couple of months ago, we were in the 300s in terms of how many properties were for sale. And so there's a lot more choices out there. And what happened is there was really a stalemate. People weren't selling because they couldn't find anything to buy. Now they're seeing those out there. And so that's great news overall for us. We also have seen overall supply rise significantly. It's up 27.3%. And so overall 27.3% increase in supply here, aka homes for sale, which is, great news for buyers, not so great news for sellers. And I think that's one thing that people miss out on is as price continues to climb, it is a lagging indicator of supply and demand. So as supply goes up, demand goes down, you're going to see some softening of price. And we have seen that a little bit already with less multiple offers, not as much bidding wars. And you're seeing some properties sit a little longer. There's one article I saw this week that was talking about nationally in May, nearly 1 in 5 homes dropped their price in the month of May across the country. And so that's the highest rate of price reduction since 2019. And so something to think about, right? 20% of home sellers dropping their price right now on the market as inventory has climbed and also demand has gone down. And so think about that overall from a home seller. Take advantage of our seasonal market here. We're coming to that summertime. Obviously, summer's kicked off. We had a big music festival this weekend, and people are in town buying. We literally had clients who were here for the festival and buying at the same time, looking at properties in the morning, going to the concert at night. And that's something that you're seeing right now where a lot of people, we see a different buyer who usually has kids in school. School gets out. Guess what? They're coming here buying something. So if you want to know more about that, reach out, call me, 843-808-SOLD or BlakeSloan.com anytime, because it's something that's very important to watch. Right now, if you're a home seller, speed is your friend. The lagging indicator of price coming in, you're going to see that price soften up. Take advantage right now before the inventory is too high, and you still have a lot of buyers who are looking overall in terms of that. Really quick, condo sales for anybody, condos out there, condo sales significant drop, down 27.2% last month. And so you're seeing a pretty significant drop, and really you're seeing a trend here the last 2 months it dropped. So for example, March, 803 condo sales, April 685, and May 617. And so you're seeing that softening. Again, you're going to probably see price soften as well. The good news though, price is still up, a new record for condos, average price up 40.7% from the same month last year, 276,997. Where just last year it was 196,893 the same month. And so looking at median price condos, check this out, up 48.1%. So that's something that's not really sustainable. That's kind of why you're seeing some softening, affordability going out there. And that's something to keep watching as well. Big news, we'll talk about interest rates. Last week's show was 5.36. This week's show, 5.55. So we're seeing that trend go up overall for a 30-year fixed rate. 15-year fixed, 4.88%. A 30-year jumbo loan, 4.79%. A 5-year ARM right now, 4.70%. An FHA loan right now, 5.12%, which is really good if you can get a seller that can really understand what that means and get that deal accepted there. And a 30-year VA loan right now, 5.12%. So take a quick break. Right back in a second with our hot buyer alert. About 10 left, do you think?
People that it's like buying and selling a stock. If you get a stock
between 9 and 10 minutes left there.
Cool. Thank you.
If you buy a stock, if the stock quadruples, you don't sell it. You're like, and then it starts to fall. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't sell it now because of the price.
Yes.
But if you sold it, before it quadrupled, if you sold it 3 times and then it would fall, you felt like a hero, and you still got less money than what you sold it before.
That's what I was.
So people get stuck in this trap of, oh my God, I had $500,000. Now I have $475. What am I going to do? Well, last year you only had $375.
That's what I want to get to. Is normalizing pre-COVID.
Yeah. Same thing with interest rates. They're still historically low, right?
Yeah, for long-term time.
Saturdays at 9 a.m. and Sundays at 11:30 a.m.
Welcome back to the Blake Sloan Real Estate Show. Hot Buyers Alert. My team and I are working with a ridiculous amount of home buyers who are looking for homes here in the Myrtle Beach, Grand Strand area, from $250,000 to $4.3 million. If you're thinking about selling or know anyone thinking about selling, have them call us immediately, 843-808-SOLD. That's 843-808-SOLD. One of the things that we do every week on this show for a very, very long time, and I really do this, I put my money where my mouth is and say, hey, look, here's the deal. We're going to do things a lot different than most agents, where most agents that you talk to, they meet with you, they promise you they're number one, whatever they say, and then they put a sign in the yard, and then they pray that someone else brings a buyer, right? Or then they start marketing for buyers once they get the listing. And so one thing we do here, we outspend the average agent 100 to 1 from a marketing standpoint, generating buyers from all across the country and literally international buyers. And so every week, if you listen for a while, we share our overall literally active buyer count. Right now, active buyers on our website working with us, 68,246 active home buyers. Again, that's 68,246 active home buyers, literally, who are on our site, username, password. Those aren't like hits or traffic. Those are actual buyers who have an account with us, who are looking to buy, and our team is able to help serve them and match them up. Like right now, Ella Charles from Charleston, West Virginia. I got Sue Emanuel from Brick, New Jersey. I got Haley from Shelby, North Carolina. I got, is that near where you're from?
Pretty close.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
Too far from Charlotte.
Oh, Shelby. Drexel Hill, PA. Got John Hammonds. We got Steve here from Myrtle Beach. I got Del Ray from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So all over the place. Acworth, Georgia. All these different ones. New York, Buffalo, New York. And so if you're thinking about selling, right, you want someone who has what we call buyers in waiting. And so we're spending massive amounts of money online, driving traffic, and we have the buyers. And so one of the things that we do that works really well for our sellers is we have a technology that takes all these buyers, and any new listing we get, it reverse engineers the most likely buyer for that property based on their previous search patterns. And so what we do is we get your listing. Once we take it through our software system, reverse engineers the most likely buyer for your property based on their patterns, and it scores them 1 to 100. And so our team reaches out, they select them all, they call them and say, hey, guess what, Trisha, we have a brand new listing. It matches exactly what you're looking for. Do you want to take a look at it? And so in this case, guess what? Trisha loves us because she's been on our site 100 plus times, looked at really hundreds of properties. And so it's exactly what she wants. And we're using that technology to really help us and help our clients sell their property faster and for more money. And so if you have anyone you know thinking about selling, inventory is still very, very tight overall, reach out to me. We're able to make it seamless. We're able to make it really much more efficient for you. But more importantly, while most agents are still trying to figure out Microsoft Outlook, we're using high-level technology that brings in buyers and really reverse engineers them to help them match them up to your property. And that's how we sell faster and for more money overall, which is really cool. And so really quick, I want to get to a couple awesome success stories. Really proud of this one. David and his family recently decided they want to move to a different area in Myrtle Beach. Their biggest concern, though, was their current home and its current condition. David knew the property needed a little bit of work, but didn't have the time to get it done. Thankfully, David saw our billboards all across town, and he was interested in our guaranteed or we buy program. Came met with him, showed exactly how we have thousands of buyers who'd be interested in his home as is. We launched our global marketing blitz, professional photos, the virtual reality walkthrough. Within 2 days, with massive traffic, had David and his family multiple offers on his home. He chose an offer for $15,000 more than he was asking. Now he can move on, sold the house as is, zero work in it, and was able to purchase the home that he wants in the area that they want as well. And also, a big shout out to Paul and Patsy. They owned a house in Georgetown, recently decided to move back up north, and thankfully they referred to us by an amazing radio listener. Basically, long story short, they wanted to sell the same thing as is. They had reached out to investors before calling us, and guess what? They offered them lowball numbers, which is what usually happens in that scenario. We came in, designed a custom plan, launched our global marketing blitz, and really drove massive traffic, sold it as is. Check this out. They got to offer $5,000 more than their asking price and $25,000 more dollars than they thought they could ever get for their home. And so that's one example. We're calling the right people who can push that number. We're able to put $25,000 more dollars in their pocket, which I think is very, very, very important in terms of that. And it's one of those things where it makes a massive difference. And so that's one thing that's overall as well. And really quick, one thing too that Mike and I were talking about, somewhat we're seeing, the big question I'm getting is like, hey, is the market crashing? And here's the deal. There's a lot of variables right now, right? We have some crazy stuff going on with government, all kind of different wild stuff being done that almost seems intentional to harm the economy. But overall, from the real estate side, one thing that's really protecting values has been inventory, right? We're still in technically a 5 million unit home shortage because after 2008, all the developers really got wiped out and they weren't really building a lot. And so you are seeing that that may help protect price a little bit overall. But like Mike and I are talking about, we had a huge increase. You're talking about 40+% increase in values, what you're probably going to see most likely is really more of a normalization, right? Kind of a market correction where even me being in the business for a long time, looking at these numbers sometimes, you just scratch your head where it's not even believable, right? And it's definitely not sustainable in that point. And so I think I'm pretty confident in that where, hey, there's a lot of different wild cards in terms of what can happen with the economy overall, and what people are trying to do. But from the real estate standpoint, I do think you're going to probably see it normalize. You're going to definitely see it soften a little bit. But the big thing here that's really going to be the wild card to help us is going to be the overall inventory being very, very tight. And so one thing too we've seen that's really, really good, and Mike knows about this, but one report that came out this past week, which was huge, overall rents year to date, year versus year, rent growth did not slow down its way. Year over year, in May, leases across the country were up 19.5%, which is crazy. And so that's a new record in that standpoint. So even some of those rentals, you may want to up those prices a little bit in terms of that. But that's one thing we're seeing right now, which is also healthy from an overall investment standpoint. That's been huge. And so one big thing we're talking about here in Myrtle Beach as well has been the growth that we've had in terms of our overall market, and also being just a huge destination for people who are coming to the beach. And that's what I think has really helped insulate us, because you're still seeing so many people move from up north, come down here. And that's one thing that was really cool. Big article. I'm sure, Dave, you guys probably talked about it in your show. Myrtle Beach named America's fastest growing city in 2022, which is awesome. That's also the second year in a row we've been able to do that. A report that U.S. News and World put out, the top 2022 list, which analyzes census, FBI data. And one of those things where Myrtle Beach was obviously the fastest growing city, which is super, super cool in that. And that's just something that's super cool. There's a crazy number. As of July 1, actually, Myrtle Beach had over 37,000 residents, 38% higher than the 2010 estimates they had of 27,122. So great news for us. Myrtle Beach still healthy overall in terms of that. And that's just something that's going to be a great thing for real estate here long term as well in that standpoint. So 2 minutes left. Mike, anything that you've seen or anything that what's your thoughts on Myrtle Beach? Obviously being from Charlotte, being a businessman, what's your thoughts about Myrtle Beach overall?
I grew up coming to Myrtle Beach on vacation, and I've seen a dramatic change. I would want to live here. I like visiting here. The people are fantastic. There's a variety of, homes. There's a variety of prices. You got anything and everything you want. It's a cool place to live. It's a great place to vacation. And it really is a great place to live.
Yeah.
And so, I'm thinking about buying something down here. So that's new.
And I'll tell you, man, it's been so crazy, born and raised here. Like, so you've been coming forever. It's just crazy to look at. I'm very, very thankfully born and raised here. Like I said, third generation real estate agent. My parents came in the early 70s. My dad grew up in Marion, which is very, very close. And so very proud of Myrtle Beach, very proud to be here, and really very proud to sell it and sell that piece. I play tourists all the time. You see, we talk about it. We go to the boardwalk all the time, my wife and I really have a good time. So love living here. If anybody has any questions real estate wise, reach out to me. My team and I are here to serve you. Anything you need. If you need a good vendor, call me. If you need something, just a quick valuation question, call me, 843-808-SOLD or BlakeSloan.com anytime. We'll be back here next week with an awesome brand new show.